poor little black girl fixes Millionaire's Mustang. What he finds on her finger shocks him. That day, a Millionaire's shiny Mustang broke down in the poorest part of town, but he had no idea that a little girl with grease on her hands and courage in her heart was about to change his life forever. She didn't just fix his car. She opened a door to a past he thought was long buried. But when he saw that ring on her tiny finger, he froze. His heart dropped, because that ring didn't belong to her. It belonged to someone he once loved and lost. This isn't just a story about a car. It's a story about regret, redemption, and the power of a child's quiet strength. If you've ever lost someone you never got to say sorry to, this video will speak to your soul. If this little girl's bravery touches your heart, tap the like button and comment below. Real heroes have small hands and big hearts. Stay with us. The ending will leave you in tears. It was supposed to be a quick drive, just a short cruise through town in his prized Mustang after a stressful board meeting. Jackson Cole, a millionaire tech investor, wasn't used to things going wrong. Everything in his life was polished, controlled, and efficient, except now, his classic 1967 Mustang was coughing smoke on the side of a broken, potholed road in a neighborhood he hadn't set foot in for over 20 years. Frustrated, Jackson stepped out, slamming the car door shut. His tailored suit and glossy shoes stood in sharp contrast to the worn-down houses and cracked sidewalks around him. He tapped his phone, but there was no signal. Even the GPS refused to cooperate. "Unbelievable," he muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. The sun bore down relentlessly, and not a soul in sight seemed willing to approach him. Most just peeked, through windows or turned away. Then, from across the street came a soft, timid voice. "Do you need help, sir?" Jackson turned and saw a young girl, no older than 10, walking toward him with a small, grease-stained backpack hanging from her shoulder. She wore faded jeans, a slightly torn t-shirt, and old sneakers covered in dirt. But what struck Jackson most was her expression, not fear, not pity, but confidence. He raised an eyebrow. "You fix cars?" She nodded. "Sometimes. My dad taught me." Before he... Her voice trailed off for a second. Then she straightened up. "I can take a look if you want." Jackson chuckled bitterly. A 10-year-old's gonna fix a Mustang, that's a new one. But she wasn't offended. Instead, she walked calmly toward the open hood and peeked inside, ignoring his sarcasm. "You've got a loose ignition coil connector." Probably shook. Loose from all that engine revving. She pulled out a small tool from her backpack and, with surprising ease, started adjusting parts like she had done it 100 times before. Jackson watched, first amused, then impressed. Her hands moved with care and her eyes scanned each wire with purpose. "What's your name?" he asked. "Amara," she said without looking up. "My dad used to fix cars here. We still live down the block. I help out when I can. My mom says I'm just like him." There was a strange warmth in Jackson's chest as he listened. He couldn't remember the last time he saw a kid this focused, this driven, and in a place like this. It stirred something he hadn't felt in a long time. Then, as she handed him the wrench, he caught a glimpse of something on her finger. A ring. Thick, gold, and oddly familiar. At first, he didn't think much of it. But then his eyes narrowed. No, it couldn't be. That design, the initials carved inside, the distinct mark along the band, it was his ring. The one he gave to Marcus, his best friend, decades ago. His hand froze mid-air. "Where did you get that ring?" he asked, his voice suddenly hoarse. Amara blinked. "It was my dad's. He never took it off, until the day he didn't come home." Jackson's heart thudded in his chest. That ring, he would have recognized it anywhere. It was custom-made, with a distinct engraved band and a tiny dent on the side from when Marcus had accidentally dropped it while fixing a carburetor. It was his ring. But Marcus had vanished from Jackson's life years ago, after a heated argument over business. Jackson had gone corporate while Marcus had stayed grounded, loyal to his old-school auto repair shop. They never spoke again. Now here stood a little girl wearing the one thing that tied Jackson to his past, a past he had buried under money, power, and polished shoes. He swallowed hard. What was your father's name? Amara looked up at him. Her eyes were round and cautious, sensing the sudden shift in his voice. Marcus Green. He used to have a shop called Green's Garage just a few streets away, but it closed after he died. Jackson stepped back like someone had hit him in the chest. Marcus Green, his childhood best friend, the man who once taught him how to rebuild an engine, who covered for him when he got into trouble, who never asked for anything except loyalty. And Jackson had turned his back on him. I knew him, Jackson whispered, more to himself than to Amara. He was my best friend. Amara's eyebrows rose. You knew my dad? He nodded slowly, a lump forming in his throat. A long time ago. She tilted her head, staring at him. Then why didn't you ever visit? After he died? We waited. That question struck him harder than he expected. He had no answer, only shame. He didn't know Marcus had a daughter. He didn't even know Marcus had passed away. That argument had ended everything, and Jackson, too proud to reach out, had moved on without looking back. Jackson found himself sitting on the curb beside Amara, his expensive suit collecting dust. She told him stories of her father, how he worked late nights, how he refused to cut corners, how he'd come home exhausted but still found time to teach her how to use tools, to fix things, to solve problems with her mind and hands. She didn't cry as she spoke, but Jackson did, quiet. Tears slipped down his cheeks as he listened to the echoes of the man he once loved like a brother, a man he abandoned. He used to say I had golden hands, Amara said, holding up her small fingers proudly. Said I'd do better than him one day. I just wish he didn't have to work so hard alone. Jackson looked at her. He wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to help him build something together. But I got selfish. I chased bigger things. Amara was quiet for a moment, then asked, why? He didn't have an excuse. Just guilt. Because I thought success meant leaving the past behind. But sometimes the past is what makes us strong, she said innocently, and in that moment, Jackson realized this girl wasn't just Marcus's daughter. She was his mirror, his second chance to make things right. Before he left that day, Jackson asked if he could speak to her mother. Amara led him to a small apartment above an old laundromat. There he met Jasmine Green. Tired eyes, kind smile, and the unmistakable strength of a woman who had carried the world on her back for years. She was hesitant at first, but when Jackson explained who he was and why he was there, something in her softened. I hated you, she admitted quietly. When Marcus died, when we struggled to eat, I blamed you because he never stopped waiting for you to come back. Jackson bowed his head. He waited, and I ran. They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, he spoke. Let me help now. Please, let me honor him the way I should have years ago. Jasmine studied him, then nodded once. Then start by fixing what he loved most. Within a month, Green's Garage was reborn. Jackson bought the old property and restored it brick by brick. He hired skilled mechanics, many of them from the neighborhood, and brought in state-of-the-art tools and equipment. But the sign above the door stayed the same. Green's Garage. Amara stood beside him the day it reopened, wearing a crisp, new mechanic's jumpsuit with her name stitched in white. She beamed as she cut the ribbon, surrounded by neighbors, cameras, and a growing sense of hope. Inside, a framed photo of Marcus hung proudly on the wall, next to his old toolbox and the first wrench he ever gave Amara. Jackson had also started a scholarship fund in Marcus's name, ensuring that kids like Amara could learn trades, build futures, and dream bigger than their streets allowed. Before he left that day, Jackson asked if he could speak to her mother. Amara led him to a small apartment above an old laundromat. There he met Jasmine Green. Tired eyes, kind smile, and the unmistakable strength of a woman who had carried the world on her back for years. She was hesitant at first, but when Jackson explained who he was and why he was there, something in her softened. I hated you, she admitted quietly. When Marcus died, when we struggled to eat, I blamed you because he never stopped waiting for you to come back. Jackson bowed his head. He waited, and I ran. They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, he spoke. Let me help now. Please, let me honor him the way I should have years ago. Jasmine studied him, then nodded once. Then start by fixing what he loved most. Within a month, Green's garage was reborn. Jackson bought the old property and restored it brick by brick. He hired skilled mechanics, many of them from the neighborhood, and brought in state-of-the-art tools and equipment. But the sign above the door stayed the same. Green's garage. Amara stood beside him the day it reopened, wearing a crisp, new mechanic's jumpsuit with her name stitched in white. She beamed as she cut the ribbon, surrounded by neighbors, cameras, and a growing sense of hope. Inside, a framed photo of Marcus hung proudly on the wall, next to his old toolbox and the first wrench he ever gave Amara. Jackson had also started a scholarship fund in Marcus's name, ensuring that kids like Amara could learn trades, build futures, and dream bigger than their streets allowed. Months passed, and Green's garage became more than a business. It became a symbol. Amara began mentoring other children in the neighborhood, teaching them what her father once taught her. Jackson visited often, not as a millionaire, but as Uncle Jack, a man rebuilding not just a shop but his soul. One day, while watching Amara help a boy fix a bike chain, Jackson felt Marcus's presence, not as a ghost, but in every gesture, every laugh, every lesson passed down. Amara walked over and smiled. "You okay?" He nodded. "Just thinking how proud your dad would be." She looked up at the sky. "I think he knows. I think he's finally at peace." Jackson took a deep breath and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Because of you." She smiled shyly, then reached into her pocket and pulled out the ring. "I think it was meant for you, not me," she said. Jackson shook his head. "No. That ring belongs to you now. Just like your dad's legacy. Keep it close." She nodded and slipped it back onto her finger. Sometimes the people we leave behind are the very ones who were meant to guide us home. A broken car led Jackson to a broken promise, and a little girl with grease-stained hands gave him the chance to make it right. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances. And drop a comment below. Real heroes have small hands and big hearts, because sometimes the smallest hands then carry the heaviest legacies.